Let me take you into a moment that feels like it was written for a movie. The lights are bright, cameras flashing, music echoing through one of the most powerful stages in fashion New York Fashion Week. The runway is alive with color, energy, and confidence. But this time, the spotlight isn't just on the models. It's on a 13-year-old girl named Mariah, whose tennis line didn't just walk the runway, it owned it. And right there in the crowd, holding back tears and cheering louder than anyone else, is her mother Melody Shari. A woman who has been through storms that would break most people, now watching her daughter's dream blossom in front of the entire world. This wasn't just a debut. This was a declaration. A reminder that no matter how messy the past gets, legacy and vision can rise above it all. Now, to really understand why this moment was so powerful, we have to rewind. Because Mariah's big fashion takeover didn't start on that runway. It started with a mother's promise. Years ago, Melody looked at her children and vowed she would open doors so wide that they'd never have to ask for permission to walk through them. And she meant it. After surviving a brutal and very public divorce from Holt, a divorce filled with betrayal, heartbreak, and humiliation, she could have crumbled. But Melody chose something different. She turned her pain into fuel, her tears into blueprints, and her setbacks into stepping stones. That's how she built 7th Avenue Beauty from scratch, how she grew one of the most loyal fan bases in reality TV, and how she became a walking example of resilience. Every late-night packing orders, every Facebook Live sharing her journey, every ounce of energy she poured into her business, it wasn't just for her. It was for her kids. So that one day, when the moment came, they'd be ready to shine. And now, that day has arrived. Mariah's tennis line wasn't just some random experiment. It was vision. It was creativity. It was a reflection of her own personality. The collection had bold colors, youthful energy, and confidence stitched into every single piece. And when those designs hit the runway, the crowd wasn't just impressed, they were stunned. This wasn't a cute little kid project. It looked professional, polished, and powerful, as if it belonged right there next to established fashion houses. That's why social media exploded the moment clips started circulating. Fans couldn't believe that a 13-year-old could come this strong. But then again, when your mother is Melody Shari, excellence is the standard. Here's the twist: this moment wasn't about Melody stealing the spotlight, though she easily could have. She made a conscious choice to step back and let her daughter shine. That's what makes this so emotional. In an industry full of parents who chase fame through their children, Melody did the opposite. She gave Mariah space. She gave her guidance, resources, and support, but she let the vision be her daughter's. And that decision changed everything. Because the glow on Mariah's face when she saw her designs walking down that runway? That was joy. That was pride. That was proof that she's not just following her mother's footsteps, she's creating her own path. But let's talk about the layers behind this victory. Because while Melody and Mariah were celebrating, not everyone was clapping. On social media, certain cast members and critics tried to downplay the success. Some shaded the moment, suggesting it was all staged for attention. Others couldn't hide their jealousy. But here's the truth: New York Fashion Week doesn't hand out stages to just anyone. You earn it. And Mariah's line didn't just show up. It took over. That's why the audience responded the way they did. That's why fashion insiders paid attention. And that's why the footage went viral. Meanwhile, fans noticed something else. Every time Melody levels up, drama seems to creep in from Martell's side. It's almost like clockwork. And sure enough, while Melody was celebrating her daughter's milestone, Martell popped up in headlines again, this time for reasons that had nothing to do with growth or success. Some fans even believe he times his moves to distract from Melody's shine. But the difference is clear. While one side is stuck in cycles of chaos, the other is building legacy. And that contrast couldn't be more obvious than it was at NYFW. Now, let's dive deeper into what this means emotionally. For Melody, this was more than just a proud mom moment. It was validation. It was proof that all those sleepless nights, all those battles she fought, all those tears she cried in private, they weren't in vain. She broke generational cycles. She turned pain into power. And now her daughter is standing in rooms that most adults only dream of. For Mariah, it was life-changing. Imagine being 13 and seeing strangers cheer for your vision. Imagine realizing that your creativity has value, that your ideas belong on one of the biggest stages in the world. That does something to a young mind. It plants seeds of confidence that will grow for years to come. And let's not forget the fans. Because they felt this moment too. Social media was buzzing with comments like, "This is what breaking cycles looks like," and Melody promised her kids would win, and she meant it. Supporters weren't just watching a fashion show, they were watching a legacy unfold. They were watching resilience pay off in real time. And for so many mothers, daughters, and families out there, it was inspiring. But here's the bigger picture. This wasn't just about fashion. This was about vision, strategy, and intention. Melody didn't bring her daughter to New York Fashion Week to play dress up. She brought her there to set the tone for the future. She's teaching her kids that success isn't about fame, it's about creating, building, and owning your story. She's showing them that even when the world tries to tear you down, you can rise and you can bring your family with you. That's the kind of legacy that lasts. As the runway lights dimmed and the show ended, Melody pulled Mariah close. Cameras caught her whispering something in her daughter's ear, and you could see Mariah smile through tears. Nobody knows exactly what she said, but fans have their guesses. Maybe it was "I'm proud of you." Maybe it was "This is just the beginning." Either way, it was a moment that spoke louder than words. So here's where we end. Melody isn't just celebrating because her daughter's tennis line took over New York Fashion Week. She's celebrating because it represents everything she's fought for. This is about a woman who refused to be defined by betrayal. About a mother who turned her pain into power. About a daughter who is now walking boldly into spaces that were once closed off. And about a legacy that is being written in real time. What nobody expected was for a 13-year-old girl to command the runway like a seasoned designer. What nobody saw coming was the way her collection would leave an audience in awe. And what nobody can deny is that Melody's vision is working not just for herself, but for the next generation. So the next time you see Melody smiling, remember it's not just joy. It's victory. It's resilience. And it's proof that when a mother decides to break cycles, her children don't just inherit her struggle, they inherit her strength. Mariah's line may have taken over New York Fashion Week, but in reality, it took over something much bigger. It took over the narrative. And this time, the story isn't about drama, betrayal, or heartbreak. It's about legacy. And that, more than anything, is why this moment will be remembered. Because this wasn't just a fashion show. This was history in the making. As the energy of New York Fashion Week began to settle and the cameras turned off, what lingered wasn't just the memory of bright lights and glamorous models. It was the feeling of something far bigger than fashion. Melody stood there holding her daughter's hand, realizing that this night wasn't just about clothes or applause, it was about promise. The promise that she made years ago when she told her children they would never be limited by her pain, their father's mistakes, or the chaos of the past. That promise had now walked the runway in the form of Mariah's vision. What made this ending so powerful was how raw and real it felt. Mariah wasn't handed this moment. She worked, she dreamed, and she dared to put her creativity into the world. And the world responded. To see a 13-year-old not only dream but execute at such a high level reminded everyone watching that greatness has no age limit. It was a moment that told young girls everywhere, your ideas matter. Your vision is valid. Don't wait, create. For Melody, the triumph was personal. She had been told she couldn't rebuild, she had been doubted, and she had been laughed at in the lowest points of her life. But this victory for her daughter was the kind of win that no critic, no rumor, no shade could take away. It was undeniable proof that when you rise above bitterness and focus on building, your legacy speaks louder than your enemies ever could. And that's why this moment will not fade with the closing of Fashion Week. It will ripple forward. For Melody, it cements her as more than just a reality star. She's a mother, a visionary, and a blueprint for how to turn survival into generational success. For Mariah, it's the first chapter of what will surely be an extraordinary story. And for every person who watched from afar, it's a reminder that beauty is not just in the clothes, it's in the courage to dream, to push through struggle, and to shine even when the odds are against you. So when we talk about this night, let's be clear, it wasn't just another runway show. It was a declaration. A declaration that Melody's children are stepping into a future brighter than the past ever was. And that legacy? That's bigger than any spotlight, louder than any headline, and stronger than any storm they've ever faced.